Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on Saturday, May 3rd, 2014, about 1 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern Daylight Time. And however improbable it is, today's topic is wind chimes. The prompting and genesis for this little excursus is my watching an episode of The Middle, one of my very favorite TV shows. That dealt with, said objects, and I got reminiscing about various wind chime episodes in my life. The first one was I had a very good friend that went to Miami University, and I'd travel down to try to see him from time to time. And he'd lived in the dorm, and then he lived in a sort of a quasi-dorm, and then he'd gotten an apartment with a fellow. Well, I can't give his name, he's still alive. But suffice to say, the fellow was a member of a family down in the town in which I grew up, that did plumbing and electrical work and contracting, but, plumbing was their specialty. They also did heating and stuff like that. In fact, this fellow's dad, well, and indeed this guy that I'm going to talk about, came over and worked on my mother's furnace and so forth for many years while she was still alive, and so they were very helpful. I mean, these are great folks, and so so I went down there when my friend and this fellow had gotten a house together down there in Oxford, Ohio, where the town in which Miami University resides. And this guy, well, the plumber's son was he fancied himself as an artist. And my buddy, well, he was, in English and did a lot of stuff, and is now in video production out in Los Angeles. But this guy would come in and he'd come in sometimes. You'd find him on the floor, with like the remnants of a tree stump between his legs, with a chisel, and you wonder, well, Lord, don't cut your nuts off with that chisel while you're banging away on this thing. He would say, I'm just doing a little freeform sculpture here, a little like little freeform sculpture, and and it was great. I mean, it was great, and then, 20 years later, he was trying to help change up my mother's furnace or something, Actually, they did it like 4 times in about a 16-year period, which makes me think that maybe there's a certain amount of exploitation going on there, but I am not leveling such an accusation. Still, one thinks, doesn't one? 4 times in 16 years, 4 different furnaces, or $4,000 a whack. Who knows? Well, you deal with what you got to deal with, don't you? The genesis of this story was this wind chime episode on the middle. And this guy that was doing the freeform sculpture ultimately, one of the great stories he told when I went down to visit my buddy, I should say good friend, he's much more than a buddy. He had gone out. This is about when he was 17, and he'd gone out and of course been drinking and so forth. And I don't know if he was driving or not. Well, no. Whether he was driving or not, he came home on foot. Let's put it that way. And it seems that the back porch area of his house was unlighted, unlit, to use the real term. And as he approached it, he heard these wind chimes. Now, I guess they had a set of wind chimes hanging off the back of their house. Ding, 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 ding. And this bothered him because he wanted to sneak into his bedroom, from which he had crept out earlier. See, he had left the house under cover of darkness after presumably having gone to bed. Well, that's what you do, don't you? If you can, and you want to. So he was returning home, and here's these wind chimes dinging and dinging and dinging and dinging. Well, as it turns out, he wasn't quite as functional as he thought he was. And he was having trouble finding his bedroom window, from which, whence he had come. And he kept hearing these wind chimes. And so he decided the best course of action was to go find these wind chimes. Which, in a more, how shall we say, lucid state, he would have known immediately where they were. Well, they were on the back porch. But his bedroom wasn't near the back porch. It was around the side of the house. So he had gone to his bedroom, and he had to sort of work his way around, feeling his way in the darkness. Around to the back porch. And the sound got louder and louder and louder. And so, as it turns out, there was a baseball bat lying against the back side of the house. And so when he finally reached that area, and he found the wind chimes and the baseball bat, the solution was near at hand. Well, indeed, in his hand. And he just took a swing, and it was not a swing and a miss. And he sent those wind chimes in the next world. At which point, that awakened his dad. And there was a certain amount of running around the yard with some attempted thrashing and falderall. But those wind chimes never bothered anybody else again on that one. Now, I'm going to, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to say that I may have perhaps elaborated on this story just a hair. But that's the essence, sometimes could be the essence of a good story. Now, as a sort of an addendum to the wind chime, or view, if you will, Paul's dad, God bless him. This man could make stuff and do stuff, and he was a good guy. He was a good guy. He wouldn't shut up. But you couldn't get a word in edgewise, and well, that's because he was using it as a defensive strategy to hide from the fact he was uneducated. But he was a very reasonable guy. He could let out a few bigoted statements, but he wasn't. He wasn't bigoted. He didn't know how that sounded. But he gave us a set of these wind chimes that he had made, and they were nice. They were big, and they had multi-tones. You had these aluminum tubes with different lengths, so you had multi-tone, and it was great. And we hung it in one of the oak trees out front, and I mean, it's still out there. I mean, they're still very usable. The limb that we hung them on is long since sort of auto. The oak trees sort of auto prune themselves. And I have no problem with wind chimes per se. Well, if they're off afar. Now, if they're right off the back deck where I got to listen to them every night, now that's a bit of a problem. Now, in line with that, a fellow with whom I'd been involved in a sort of a semi-business relationship on a piano restoration venture, which I may or may not talk about sometime. But in any case, his buddy talked about an incident in which he had been coming home from a date. Isn't that a great word? A date. And actually, it was very similar to the story I told you just previously. And but it seems that he had a shotgun in his truck. And in this case, he was trying to climb into the bedroom of the girl. Yeah, I do know some straight people. Actually, most of the people I know are straight, actually. So here's this wind chime ding-donging away, and he decided the most silent way to get into his girlfriend's bedroom window was to take the shotgun out of his truck and shoot down that wind chime. Such is the mind of people under hormonal floods. Well, it's been a lot of fun. So tomorrow I read at church, and it's been a good day. We're still here. Got my daily bread there on the stove. What more can you ask for? You know, we're safe. There we are. God bless us all. Bye-bye, YouTubers.